30 years, so that's 60 million.
I need to call my doctor right now. 60 million?
It's principal and interest.
But okay, Mr. Akers' question was 25 million.
I'm sorry, that was 30 million. We had talked about different numbers.
Okay.
Let me
I'm still having a heart
that.
attack, don't worry.
Yeah, your heart attack's, yeah. Hang on.
Well, he's figuring that too. One thing that he mentioned that maybe bears repeating a little bit in a little more detail is that you're not required, the referendum does not require you to issue any bonds. It simply allows you to issue them if you want. You have 8 years in which to do it, and that actually can be extended to 10 years by court order if you go to the court and ask for a couple more. Now, I know the intent is not to wait that long, but if something were to happen and you did not like the market terms that you were getting, you could wait.
So Mr. Akers' question about including the cost of the bond, that doesn't include our interest payments. That includes what the banks would charge us for these bonds.
I think the
25
25.
million
If we went out and issued 25 million today,
right,
and it cost you $100,000 to issue the bonds, the schools would have $24,900,000.
That's the point. Okay.
Not the interest cost.
Right.
The cost of issuance.
So we're already in the hole on the project before we even started, because whatever it cost us, they're going to have to not do in the project, or we fund some other way.
Now, if you borrow all the money up front, you will have some interest earnings. Of course, in today's market, we're not earning a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
But who knows? You know, by the time
so I get 1% over a year for $25 million. I get $250,000.
$53.2 million at 5.5%. $25 million borrowed over 30 years. Over 20 years.
So we've been. I mean, we're going to do this. We're going to do this because we need to embark on an aggressive renovation program for schools. Can you tell me what the debt service is going to be on that?
That debt service is $1,775,000 at 5.5%. Obviously, we don't know what rates are going to be.
$1,775,000.
Right. That's higher than today's market.
That's 7 cents.
Is 5.5% market?
No, that's higher than market, just because I know the rates are anticipated to go up by the time we get to.
But the market is like 4 now, right?
Market's probably about 4.5 by now.
Yeah.
So it's about 100. That's about 1% lower than current market.
And that's going to mean a lot of money. But our debt service for 30 years.
30 years. That's about 7 equivalent of today's penny. About
today's
7,
penny,
a little over
7
7.
And then whenever we.
And that's part of the decision that when we get closer to market, and I bring back to you, here's the different options. We'll look at 20. We'll look at 30. 20 years, it's only $43 million. So you save interest. You're not paying for that extra $10 million.
Courtney, you say only $43 million like that's an easy thing to say. We are not the Trumps.
I know. I sold $75 million earlier today for Loudon Water. So.
Yeah, okay. We're also not Loudon.
Big numbers. I know. Sorry.
All right.
But the point is, that's only 8.5 pennies, so it's a penny and a half more.
Oh, what's that on 20 years?
20 years, it's 2.15 million. That's about 8.6 pennies. So that's about a penny and a half more.
That's 8 cents
to shorten it by 10 years. So those are the type of things we'll look at in more detail.
Okay. So, but that's a decision we make as we get closer to issuing it,
right.
And then we figure out.
We need to know how much the projects really cost. We don't want to just issue a blank check for $25 million.
Right. Because they're going to have to go out and get bids when they come back with bids.
Here's the problem you're going to have. This money only can be used for the 2 projects.
Right.
Now, they technically, as Mr. Emerson said, they could move money between projects. That's their decision. But one of the problems that I've seen clients get into is they'll issue basically these 2 projects. They go out and issue $25 million. The cost comes in at 23. They get $2 million more. What are they going to do with the money? The only thing you can do is either spend it on something else in the project, create something else, or pay bonds back. But if we issue bonds with a 10-year call, it's very expensive to. So we want to issue only what we need to issue to get the project done. That's my point.
So part of what we'll do, and I think we need another, after this revelation, we'll need another work session with the schools to make sure we understand where we're going.
Their timing of bidding it out,
right.
And when those bids will come due, then we can time the issuance of the bonds
Right.
You know, if VPSA is an option, they only issue twice a year, spring and fall. So,
Right.
you know, we'll just need to line up all the
Okay.
calendars.
So we need to meet with the schools as soon as possible, like I guess July, if they can do that. We have 2 meetings in July. Maybe we can switch them in between somewhere. Okay. Or have them come for more than an hour ahead of our other meeting, if we can do that. Okay, Mr. Rogers,
hopefully
thank
that's
you very
helpful.
much. So we're looking at, the reality is we're looking at 7 cents, an increase in 7 cents for 30 years, or 8
Call it 8
and
and a half.
change, 8.5, or if we go 20 years, 60 million for 30 years, 40 million for 20 years? 53?
53 and 43
I kind of blocked those numbers, I'm sorry. All right,
at 5.5. So depending upon where rates are by the time we get there.
okay. So
Plus
we're going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead
You
and
get
vote to go
another, you
ahead.
get another bite at the apple. Is the point
Okay.
I wanted to make.
But I think part of the process that we have to convey to schools is we want to make sure we have RFPs, fixed costs, before we actually go to the bank with our ATM card and pull out 25 million.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Discussion? Motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt a resolution, the Board requesting the Circuit Court to order a special election of the question on issuing general obligation bonds in the maximum principal amount of $25 million for school purposes.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Akers, seconded by Mr. Black, to move forward with the resolution for the bond issue to be placed on the November ballot. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. In addition to that, I've asked Mr. Cully if he would set up a July meeting with the school board so we can kind of get our ducks in a row and move forward. All right. Well, now that we did that, we need to talk about the approval for financing. Is that still you, Mr. Rogers? Approval for financing for the public safety radio system. And I'm sure you've got much better news.
Oh, I wasn't sure if anybody was going to cover the project itself. So,
No, we've covered the project enough. It's dead.
no problem.
Okay. So tell us about how we pay for something.
Okay, so we previously sent out bids to our RFP to a number of banks. We got back 3 under the previous RFP. With the time being shorter this go-around, we basically went back to the 3 that bid previously, which was Union Bank, Bank of America, and SunTrust. Union Bank did not, they requested not to bid this time since they were really far off the mark on the previous go-around. So we got bids back from Bank of America and SunTrust. We'd asked for up to 15 years. That's the, I think that is the extent of the estimated useful life of the items being financed here. SunTrust was only able to go 12.5 years. They gave us a rate of $265. Bank of America gave us a 12.5-year rate of $253, so they were lower. But Bank of America also gave us a rate to go out the full 15 years at a $275. It's a little bit higher than the first time. The market has moved upward. Interest rates are starting to trend upwards. So that basically at 15 years would be an annual payment of $609,243 in that ballpark. That's at roughly $6.2 million and change in terms of the issuance size. That does start in 2016 because we did defer interest for 2 years, and that is also included in that 609 number. If you wanted to go the 12.5, that's actually $690. It's about $80,000 more per year in terms of the outlay.
Okay. And your number, your finance number was 6.2,
I believe that's the,
which was the
I
last.
think that's your project number, actually. I think the issuance number is a little bit higher because we have the cost of
Cost is built in.
the 2-year deferment as well as issuance in there.
Right. I saw that. I was trying to pull up that spreadsheet.
So I think what I'm giving you is the cost of the project, right? 6.232, I think, and change.
Okay. In this case, I'm multitasking. I'm sorry. I was trying to pull up the bid thing again. But in this case, the bids were, the last price we got was 6.2.
Was 262.
6.2 and.
Right, it only went up
Okay.
about 13 basis points, which, to be honest, I thought
Okay.
was pretty reasonable. I thought it might be a little higher. We've seen a pretty drastic increase in interest rates since Memorial Day.
But we'd originally asked for 6.5, because that was the original, the first time you did it, I think it was 6.5?
6.5, right.
6.5.
Right.
Now, the 6.2 number doesn't include some of the equipment we have to buy, still that secondhand equipment we were going to buy from another locality. So that's not in there, and we kind of sold this a little bit on broadband, and there's nothing in there for additional broadband stuff. So do we want to go with the 6.2 and then pull money out of the general fund, or do we want to go with 6.5 and conceivably have some of that money to pay for the additional equipment we need? Because realistic, I looked at the proposal and we've got 6 sites that we're going to have broadband for a mile around those, a mile or 3 around those 6 sites. 2 of those are in Hanover, which we probably need to discuss a little bit more. But do we want to, and it's, we can say that's what we're going to use that extra money for, exclusively those purposes, additional equipment, or not, so, and broadband.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a good idea. I think I'd rather have the money available. It's not that much of an increase when we look at the total project. I think it would just make good sense for us to be prepared, being able to do that.
I will need to double check with Bank of
Touch the
America.
general fund. I'd like to see that.
They approved us at the higher number before.
Yeah.
We probably just need to give them the additional items we'll be financing, because since this is a lease, they do look at as collateral the items that we're financing. I don't think it'll be an issue, but I need to get that clarity.
So we need to give you, and I'm sure we need to make sure we get this done. Does it make a difference? Steve, does it make a difference if you don't have you have a signed contract, right? You don't have a signed contract until we do this. So once we approve it, I can sign the contract, and then he's happy and everybody else is happy. We can still do that tonight.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes, sir.
we're looking at, I'm just making sure I'm looking at the right sheets. We're looking at Bank of America 15-year.
Yes. You got the Davenport internal bank estimate versus proposal?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like page number 3, back of page 3.
I don't have page numbers, but I think it's the first spreadsheet. First spreadsheet? Yeah, because one has 6.5, 6.507, and 6.232.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I say we shouldn't do 6.2, because then we'll be in the hole to start off. And we're talking
And it's 2.9% is what we're looking at?
2.9.
No,
2.75.
2.9 was an early estimate that we had
2.9 was the first.
back when we started the process.
So we're talking $20,000 more?
The payment is, I've estimated at 636 versus the 609, so about 25.
30?
And we're not going to consider the 12 and a half years?
Fine.
It saves you $320,000 over the period of the life of the loan. It's only $81,000 more a year than what you would have under the 15-year loan. According to the information I read in here, that over the life of the loan, it would save you $320,000.
Yeah, that's always, any kind of loan, you pay it back shorter.
Oh, yeah,
You
sure.
pay less
sure,
less
sure.
interest, but the shorter payment back is, or the shorter payment schedule has a little more pain to it.
Oh, sure, as you go
Right.
along.
Right.
So-
But it's about 80,000, no matter how much you're borrowing. It's roughly about the same differential per year.
So, and there are numbers in that spreadsheet of 6.5 and 6.2 at 12 years and 15 years.
Right.
So, Mr. Garner, we're going to do this. We're just trying to figure out how to do it right now. So, let's go first. You want to go 12 or 15?
I think 12 it looks attractive.
If-
General fund.
Rogers.
Mr. Chairman? Yeah. Mr. Rogers, if we
Yes, sir.
look at the 12 and a half for the 6.5, which I agree is the fact that I think we should go ahead and include those costs into the amount. I hate to pull out the unencumbered balance every time we need something like this. And the school loan of 2.1 if we went 20 years rather than 30 years. That is going to be, how much do you estimate the debt retirement per year would be for 12 and a half at 6.5?
At 6.5, about 720 to 725 in that range.
All right, so
So
that's
call it
roughly
3 pennies,
$2.8 million
That's 3 cents.
a year.
about 3 cents.
$2.8 million, which is going to be about 10 cents.
That's kind of what we think.
Right, that's about right, Mr. Akers, about 10 cents.
This is
Now,
this
keep in
is-
mind, I don't have in front of me your existing debt and how it trends down. If you're looking at these projects just by themselves, yes, 10 cents, but at some point, some of your debt's going to start coming down. But
And we would like that to keep happening,
Sure.
and not because it's going down,
Right,
add
but if you-
more. So we're
So it may not be
Kinda
exactly 10, but just for these projects, yes.
still caught between a rock and a hard place because we
No
have
matter
to
where you look
we
at
have to do things, so we can't not have it
Right.
go up. Do we think 12 is the best choice, or 15? Mr. Black? Mr. Seeley? And the issue for us is, and first time we're discussing this, so we're going to discuss it, but the issue is shorter time frame, higher payment, save more at the end, longer time frame, lower payment, less pain in the beginning.
That's your rationale. I just want to hear Mr. Black's rationale.
Oh,
Without
sure.
carrying on a separate
Turn the mic on.
conversation.
Go
I
ahead.
was just thinking in terms of the lower payment would be, would be less, I mean, it would be, yes, it would be longer in the long run, but I mean, that would be money that we could put in the general fund, unless it would be more money for the general fund. You'd be taking out, I mean, the $600,000 to $800,000 is quite a difference.
Yeah, between 12 and 15.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Seeley?
I am still trying to reconcile, we're going to borrow 6.5,
I think that's the
Correct.
general consensus,
I mean-
yes.
just, so the project's paid for.
Correct,
We're doing Bank of America,
correct.
and I'm just trying to get on the right page because there's a ton of these.
Well, there's the first
And-
one,
And there is no 6.5 of this interest rate because we were looking at the lower number.
yeah, you've got the summary page with the colors.
I've got the summary
Okay.
page with the
Now
column.
go down to the next page
Yeah,
is the 15-year 6.5 and 6.2 number.
okay,
The next page is the 6.5, 6.2 number at 12 years for 6.5. Then that's the 15-year loan with 2 years capitalized interest. That's, we're just going to pay interest for the first 2 years. And then we get, I guess it should be 12 years of payment. Usually 15 minus
Oh,
2
sorry.
is 13, but I guess in this
There-
case 15 minus 2 is 12.
Yeah, the capitalized interest period is really like a year and a half. I think they're really probably more like 13,
based
15.
on where it starts.
Right.
Okay. You got it?
I'm looking at them, and what I'm trying to reconcile in my head is the difference in interest rate, because there's definitely a difference in the interest rate, isn't there?
But the first
Mr.
one, the 15-year ones, or the first one he did was the original proposal. So the one on the far left, the interest rates are higher.
Okay,
The second column of numbers was actually
That's
a
the
commitment
bid.
from the
That's
bank.
the bid that we currently have on the table at 6.2 million.
So we don't really have a 2.75 rate compared to 6.5 we're going to borrow.
Right.
okay, so we don't, because I'm looking for that.
We don't
So
have
we-
that number,
okay.
right.
That
And
was
I'm-
just-
And I'm frantically looking
Right.
for,
Sorry.
Right. We don't have that number.
Yeah,
We-
that was introduced this evening. So
Yeah.
we were told to go out at 6.232, which is what you're seeing there in that middle column. That gives you the 609. I interpolated up to the 6.5 million. That gives me about a 636, call it 637 payment instead of 609.
So all of the numbers on the left that we see on our spreadsheet
Right.
will be lower because we got a 3% interest rate versus 2.75. A quarter point is not going to be a whole lot lower, but they will be lower than what's here.
Yeah, but the quarter point may actually move you to the 12 and a half years and offset the whole thing. And that's what I was trying to figure.
Look at the very last page, and it shows the two 12 and a halves beside each other, basically the Bank of America versus the SunTrust 12 and a half. So the far left side shows the Bank of America 12 and a half year loan at 6.2 million, 2.53%, 690,837 is our estimate there. So if we go to 6.5 million, it's about 720 to 725 in terms of the payment. So it jumps up about 35,000.
And that's what I was trying to figure out was, do you do with the lower rate at the 12 and a half years?
The quarter point is probably
Is
saving
going to
us the
save
difference.
right.
That's a good point.
But I didn't have those, so I was looking for something to do that, and I couldn't.
Yeah, no, that was the thing. We just thought of it when this came up to say we should make sure we got money to pay for the project instead of borrowing money right away. And
For what it's worth, just talking about the 6.2 million, the difference between the 275 15-year and the 253 over 12 and a half is about $320,000 of interest, you say.
yeah, we are still looking at 6.5. Okay, so you're telling us, Mr. Rogers, in your professional opinion, the quarter point we would save in interest is probably going to get us into the 12 and a half year range for the same cost as the 15-year range.
In terms of increasing the loan size?
Just in terms of,
you basically
yeah.
pick up, right, you basically pick up that, you save that by going shorter.
Right.
Even though your payment's a little higher, you save that interest.
Okay.
That's right.
I think you kind of just told us what to do. We should go to the 12-year version at a lower rate. Right.
The 12-year at the lower rate is going to be the same as the 15 at the higher rate.
In terms
So
of the total
and that's
overall
why I
debt.
was looking for the numbers, was trying to figure if I could get there or not.
And
I see what
we
you're
still,
thinking.
back to Mr. Black's point is, we can have less pain for 15 years, but you end up paying a lot more. Or you have more pain for 12 years, but you pay it off quicker, and you have more money. So this is like everybody does this at home. I want a 5-year loan for my car or a 4-year loan for my car. Or a 7-year loan. They do those now, yeah. Or I'm going to CarMax, so. But
See,
all right.
But the 12 and a half at the lower rate, to me, makes the most sense.
I think that's, yeah. All right. I think we're at consensus now. Is there, Ms. Taylor?
12 and a half.
Okay, 12 and a half at the lower rate, borrowing 6.5.
Okay.
Is there a motion to that effect, gentlemen? We're going to go with the 12 and a half year rate.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Right. I just want to make sure first of all, we agree to that, and then we'll modify the resolution that I'll sign so Mr. Gardner and Motorola are happy before the end of the quarter.
Right, I think the resolution basically is a maximum interest rate as well as amount, but we need direction as to which way you want us to go, which is where you're headed,
Right.
Mr. Chairman.
And actually, I thought in the resolution it was blanks.
We filled them in. I think the version that came out yesterday was filled in.
Okay,
It was
'cause
filled
what I
in.
have is
It
blank.
was filled in with a 275 max rate and a
Okay.
6.9 max size,
Okay.
because we're talking about construction dollars here, and we have
Right.
to capitalize interest and everything bumps it up.
And it's got to be
No.
approved with numbers in it.
No, we're going to go ahead and we're going to give them staff direction. They're going to make changes in the resolution. Then we're going to adopt the resolution. I'm going to sign the thing, and then we've got a contract with Motorola, right? Okay, first of all, we want to do 12 and a half years, borrowing 6.5. There was a motion to that effect made by Mr. Underwood. Was there a second? Mr. Taylor seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously. So, do I need to give you time to change the resolution or modify the resolution?
No, sir.
Do I need to give Mr. Rogers time to modify the resolution?
The only thing I'm thinking, Mr. Chairman, is maybe just to bump it up to 7 million, just because I don't have all the numbers right in front of me. I want to make sure that I can incorporate your whole 6.5 million plus the capitalized interest that we have to incorporate into the size.
Oh, that was
Just
good.
for the resolution, not for what you just did, just the resolution.
for the resolution, we need to go to 7 million because the first two interest payments are not included in what we're borrowing.
And here's why, just so you can see, there's the page,
We gotta pay interest the first 2 years?
we're deferring interest for 2 years.
Right.
If you look at the column called
we
cap,
don't
cap
yet.
interest, cap, C-A-P-I-N-T, we're deferring interest for 2 years for budgetary purposes to start payments in 2016. So we need to add that into the sizing. That was incorporated into the 6.9 that's in the resolution for the 15 years.
The resolution that we
At
had is
6
6.9
At
because you already had that.
6.2, and I just want to make sure I've got enough room to size the issue completely.
Okay. Is there an issue with that? The resolution is going to say 7. He can borrow up to 7. Our project costs are 6.5. In that borrowing, what you're saying, Mr. Rogers, in that borrowing to cover the capitalized interest,
Right.
we would have that already as part of our borrowing, as opposed to taking that out of our general fund to pay the first 2 years.
Mr. Chairman, rather than kick that money down the road, I'd rather try to pay those 2 interest payments for both years
From the general fund.
for the general fund until we can find out a way to generate some revenue, maybe talk about it. Yeah.
Not borrow it?
I'd rather we pay that.
Mr. Rogers, do you think that's a good idea?
Obviously, it's up to you all to find the funds. If you look on the very last, again, let's go to the last page, which has the 12.5-year 6.2 rate. The interest there is $95,014 and $166 and $15. So, knowing that we're going to borrow 6.5, that interest is going to go up. So you roughly got to find about $100,000 in your budget for this upcoming year, 2014.
July 1st.
Right.
And we do not budget for that in July, in the 2014 budget. We don't have $100,000 to make that payment budgeted for 2014's budget. So we would again be pulling it out of the general fund, unencumbered balance, whatever. So how does the board wish to go? You want to go?
Well, that was the other, the other thing we had planned for this capitalized interest, because we should be retiring debt, so where this fits in, for the first payment on 16, we should be improving on our debt payments should be going down, and it fits in it a little bit better. But yeah, we did not budget for anything for FY14, because we had planned on all of our discussions for 2-year deferred and capitalized interest.
Okay. So you're saying right now, well, Mr. Rogers said we need $100,000 in next year's budget.
But we're paying it.
We're paying it.
So
On interest. Interest, right. I don't
we're
like that.
borrowing money to pay the interest.
On the interest.
All right.
I just don't like that. I don't think it's good economics.
So we're gonna have to find that $100,000 in next year's budget, which starts in 3 weeks. And we were kind of close to next year's budget. So basically, when we say this, we're talking unencumbered balance is the only place we have to get money for the budget.
I would personally like to go ahead and take it out of the unencumbered balance, because we know we found that was at least $215,000 to $225,000 that was discovered after the budget had been put together.
Right.
So you've got the first year's payment taken care of.
Well, we already spent that money on something else, but
Well, I would hope not.
I think we spent a piece of it, I'm sure. But I mean, that's
Not much, though.
But there is additional revenue from our second-year delinquent taxes, third-year delinquent taxes that we don't count in, that may be here.
I'd like
That's
to
right,
see
Ms.
some
Hatcher?
run at paying.
Okay.
I'd like to just
All right.
get a run at
I'm-
paying that.
I
And
think
not
that's
down the
where we're
road.
going. All right. We're going to borrow 6.5. We're going to borrow the 6.5? 6.5.
It should be a little bit higher.
6.5.
So we're not going to do the capitalized interest?
No.
Okay.
We're going to struggle with that ourselves to figure out where it comes from,
That's
which
good.
we think we can find it with
That's good
additional
for us.
revenue. Last resort will be unencumbered balance. The number is 6507568, right? 6507 plus the cost of issuance. Okay. I think we're good on the finding.
So,
We're going to find it.
6.6
What's the
just
safe?
as a round number, that'll take out.
6667.
Plus, we have to
We're
go
going
on the cost.
605.
6507. 6507. $100,000 is what you said it would cost me for 25 million.
Yeah, I had 75 in here as an estimate. So that's why I was just rounding it up to 6.6.
6.6? Okay, the resolution is going to say 6.6.
We only borrow what we need, but
Well, I
that's,
know there has to be headroom in it, because you can't go to the penny, so.
Right.
You just
we
don't
gotta
want to
pay.
cut it
Okay.
too close.
6.6.
Really.
Now I need a motion to adopt the resolution for funding at 6.6 million,
12 and a half years.
12 and a half years,
Well, it says up to 15, but we understand the 12.
authorize staff to execute the contract that goes with it. I guess once I do the resolution, I can sign the contract.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
already on.
That's the motion for the resolution. We're going to find the other money. 6.6 is what we're looking for. That's the cost of borrowing the money, 6.5 plus 100. Motion to that effect?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Underwood and seconded by Mr. Seeley. Thank you very much, Mr. Rogers. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. That motion carries.
thank you.
Thank you, sir, unanimously. All right. Agenda item number 11, which is continued discussion of the change in the fiscal year 2013 utility budget resulting from elimination of loan. Is that you, Mr. Cully, or is that Mrs. Hatcher?
We'll try to make it through it with Mrs. Hatcher's assistance.
Okay. This was an issue that came up at our last meeting. There was some discussion and some question about what happened. So, Mr. Cully, go right ahead.
Well, basically, this is a paper transaction. No money ever moved around. So that's the first thing that we want you to understand is that when we were authorized to basically do away with the due to issue from utilities back to the general fund, so we cleared up our fund balance so we didn't look like we had an inflated fund balance. We worked with the auditors on the transactions that needed to take place in the AS400 Bright accounting software to make that money get paid back in paper, because it had to. You're sort of writing off a loan, but it's got to clear itself up. And so Ms. Hatcher had to do these various transactions on both the utility side and the general fund side to make those things go away. And that's what then, when you run these reports out of the system now, they've got inflated numbers in there where these transactions took place. No cash ever moved. That would had to have done downstairs in the treasurer's office. This is all just basically journal entries in the system to make that all balance out and go away. So that was what's included in your memo on those accounts. But it really, next year you'll be fine. Every report we run next year, everything will balance out and look good, and you won't have inflated numbers on both the utility side and or on the general fund side in those reports. But that's what has driven this question. When she ran those reports, they saw these journal entry transactions, and it looked like there was more money there, and
That's what we said.
but there isn't any cash. No cash ever moved anywhere. It's just paper.
Mr. Seeley, I think this was your question, wasn't it?
It was a combination of your question, because when we resolved this, and my understanding was, I guess my understanding is that we only make these journal entries once a year. And I guess from that perspective, this gets even more convoluted because a lot more other cash flow in and out takes place, which makes this look worse. And I guess when we did this, I asked, are we going to do this? Mr. Thomas, we talked about doing that month, making that whole transition so that it was done. So I guess when we look at the end of the year balance, this is where I'm confused, because now we talked about $4 million, it's like $2.8 million.
At the time we did that entry, it was so that your general fund, when I ran your reports for your general fund, would not show over an expenditure right off the bat from the very beginning. There will be an adjustment depending on how many availability fees we get in the utility fund there still will have to be an amended budget to increase that transfer for the actual amount, not the write-off amount. So yes, there will be another entry for that when I do the amended budget. I just don't know how much it is until I get to the end of the fiscal year.
When we do the normal end-of-year transfer to utilities.
This was just to keep you from showing a over-appropriated general fund balance for the entire year.
Right. Part of it, I think, my part of the question was, it was like $4 million or $5 million.
$4,188,000.
See, that number I remembered. Because my point was, where's my $4 million? And my $4 million was a paper number that had been credited from one side to the other. So I obviously can't spend that $4 million because I really never had it.
We actually spent it years ago.
It was showing up in the fund
Okay,
balance.
I did have it at one point in time, but not recently.
But it was also showing up in the fund balance
Right.
as a plus $4 million.
That was the
Didn't
problem.
we have?
That we didn't really
It was
have.
like a receivable that you were never going to get.
Because, and I think we'd been through this a couple of times. What had happened was the utility fund gave money to prospects for water connections, whatever, schools. The utility fund gave that money, but the money should have come from the general fund. And we were saying, okay, eventually the utility fund's going to pay the general fund back, or vice versa. Neither one of those ever happened. You know, because if a prospect comes in with Gary and we give him $300,000 worth of water, we really don't care where it comes from. We don't. Fran does. That's her job. So we weren't necessarily tracking it like we should have. We should have been taking that money directly out of the general fund, so the utility fund wouldn't always seem like it was a shortfall.
Well, and let me take that one step.
There are
further
its own
then.
shortfall. It does have its own shortfall.
And that's where I'm
another
going,
story.
is that the shortfall in the utility fund that we've got, because we know we do, because we borrowed the money, we borrowed it based on connections for every year from now until, eternity. So when we don't meet that number, even though that's not the budgeted number, are we showing that being transferred from the general fund to utility?
Yes.
Right.
And we're
Yes,
tracking that
Yes,
separately?
we can tell you what that transfer is, and that's what she's talking about, that we'll get you in July, once we've closed
what all the
June,
connection
we'll know
fees
what
were.
all the connections we've
Right.
made, and we're over budget, so it won't be what we had anticipated to transfer, because we have an anticipated transfer number to make everything balance in the budget, but it'll be an actual transfer, and you'll be able to track that every year.
Right, I was going to, and that was the question. We had 38 in the budget this year, and what number are we at?
50.
Yeah.
50?
50?
50 on sewer.
50 on water, 49 on sewer. Okay.
Yeah, we're much better.
And our local newspapers are projecting tremendous growth in the county. Or they said we did.
5 paid this month, so 5
They
more
paid this month?
Yeah, so 55
Oh.
and 54.
You know they got 3 months to pay. They paid this month.
No, they don't have 3 months to
No,
pay.
when
We all
set the
changed
meter.
that.
Yeah, that's right.
When we set the meter.
Yeah, once we set the meter. Okay. So we got 55.
I'm just making sure we're still tracking the other, that's all, just
Oh, yes,
because
sir.
what
Yes,
I
sir.
don't want to see is this come out of kilter again, and we're right back here.
No,
So
we're
that's why the
gonna-
transfer does track
That's
it.
why we're doing them as transfers every year, not as anything else. It's actually a
Right.
budgeted transfer.
Okay.
and we're going to make sure that when we give something to a prospect that's utility related, the general fund pays it.
That's correct.
Not the utility fund, because then the utility fund needs to look like it's doing what it's supposed to
Well,
do.
actually, this year in the budget, I don't know when it's going to happen, but the board in their budget approved 46,000. Its actual budget number in the general fund to be transferred to the utility fund for the Bowling Green PK5 conversion meter.
Right,
So you already budgeted for that one.
right. We gave the schools $46,000 and then basically just ate it. You know, we gave it to them and then we took it back.
But
So,
we're showing it,
yeah.
it's showing it it's going to be a transfer.
Which is what it should have been doing all along,
But not a utility.
and not from the utility fund. Okay, okay. You good? I'm good. I still want my $4 million a week. I guess
I'm
we can't.
sorry, you
We
spent it
can't forever,
already.
all right.
I can
All
write you a
right.
paper one.
Thank you very, write me a paper check. Thank you very much, Ms. Hatcher. All right, that takes care of 11. 11A, Board members will see that I passed out Mr. Harden and Mrs. Hatcher worked on this and got